seem. So let's turn now to that new polling. It's from Quinnipiac University, and it shows that 38% of voters approve of the way Donald Trump is handling his job as president. That's lower than other recent polling. To underscore, just 38% approve, while 54% disapprove of his performance in the White House. The president is also underwater on some of his top issues, including immigration. On that issue, Trump's approval rating has dropped down to 43%. Trump is also upside down on questions of deportations, on the economy, trade, his handling of the nation's universities, as well as the conflicts in both Gaza and Ukraine. A majority of the voters also had objections to his signature piece of legislation, which, of course, he has deemed the big, beautiful bill. 53% of those polled do not support the legislation. 27% do support it, and another 20% offered no opinion. So, Mike Barnicle, some other polls lately have him a little higher than this. This is the lowest we've seen. But although the trends are there, his approval rating has declined, especially in the last week or so. And let's just start with the idea of on his signature issue, because we heard from Sam a moment ago. He's right. Immigration was perhaps one of his key campaign promises. He said, I'm going to do this. Perhaps Americans, though, didn't anticipate the presence of American soldiers on American streets, as well as some of the other in-your-face tactics. What do you see in these numbers?
I see the same thing in these numbers as I see on television. This is such a visual nation. And it begins with the spark of a flame in Los Angeles. And it occurs in a street that's maybe less than a mile long. And yet within 6 hours, because of what we see on TV, it explodes into this myth that Los Angeles is under siege, that Los Angeles, according to Kristi Noem, is filled with bad people, that there are riots throughout Los Angeles, when that was just not the case. And so now we're into the contagion factor, Jonathan. And with regard to the president's popularity on this, again, we go back to the visual. People see on their home screens, watching the news, they see men jumping out of SUVs, wearing masks, grabbing American citizens off the street. And within 24 hours, that citizen, he or she, might end up in Texas at some prison, or in Arkansas at some prison, whether they're taken off the streets in New York or Boston or Somerville, Massachusetts, where that happened to a young woman. So you've got all of that going on at the same time. This portends to be a long, hot summer, because the contagion factor has now set in, as we were just reporting, from city to city to city. People are out. And sometimes the local police departments aren't up to handling it. The Los Angeles Police Department made one initial mistake. They waited too long on that first day to tell the demonstrators, we have the power of arrest. These are handcuffs. You take one step forward, you raise any prospect of violence against us, you're going to jail. They just waited a little too long. They're doing fine now. But this is a troubled country with a troubled issue.
Yeah, and a lot of eyes will be on the protests this weekend, numerous planned. And Ali Vitale, the Trump administration basically has made two big bets, right? One's on immigration, just talked about that. The other is this signature piece of legislation where it's the entire Trump Republican agenda in one package. And this poll suggests Americans don't really like what they're seeing.
And yet they're reportedly, the Trump administration, trying to sell this on Capitol Hill as popular in various ways. For example, telling lawmakers that not letting tax cuts lapse, basically saying that they're cutting taxes even though they're just preserving what's already there, is popular with the American people. So they're trying to make that political sell to lawmakers who, with the passage of time, might be getting more and more uncomfortable with this bill. But I also think it's important to lay out the landscape and kind of build upon what Mike Barnicle was just saying, that this idea of protests spreading throughout the country and the backdrop of just this last week alone, the White House starting the week by leveraging these National Guard troops in Los Angeles against the objections of key state leaders there, then following through to the entirety of the week that will culminate on Saturday with this military parade that most Republican senators say they're not going to be able to go to for scheduling issues or because they have concerns about the cost. All of it is meant to leverage the military might of this this country, put it on display, and show that Trump is atop of it. It's clearly an optics feature that he is very keen on. The White House keen to say that it's an outgrowth of their immigration mandate. And yet most of the sources that I talk to who are concerned about this optic say that the more that it gets into a military space and the less it gets in an immigration space, that's where the scales could potentially tip.